Hello, fellow mompreneurs. Welcome to the Real Moms Podcast, the go-to space for resilient entrepreneurs who are striving for abundant living. I'm your host, Shay Spitz, a mompreneur and a realtor here in Columbus, Nebraska. Are you a mom juggling the hustle of entrepreneurship, family life, and personal growth? Well, you're in the right place. On this podcast, we dive deep into the real, unfiltered stories of incredible women who are navigating the journey of mompreneurship. We'll celebrate the victories, share practical insights, and acknowledge that it's okay to face challenges along the way. Success isn't about the destination. It's about the journey and the growth we experience as we balance our careers and the chaos of family life. Whether you're a seasoned mompreneur or just starting on this exciting path, join me and our amazing guests as we explore what it truly means to be a resilient entrepreneur striving for abundant living. Get ready for real, raw, and remarkable conversations that will inspire and uplift you. Because here at the Real Moms Podcast, we believe in the power of community, authenticity, and the strength that comes from embracing the journey together. So grab your coffee, find a cozy spot, and let's dive into the world of mompreneurship. This is the Real Moms Podcast, where we celebrate the hustle, honor the struggle, and thrive as resilient entrepreneurs living abundantly. Welcome to another episode of Real Moms Podcast. I like to start every podcast off with a motivational quote, and today's quote is, "Try to leave the earth a better place than when you arrived." Please help me in welcoming Alicia Chrastil, who is a lifelong Lincoln resident. Alicia embodies values of faith, family, and community. With a focus on serving seniors in real estate, she combines her expertise with genuine care to guide her clients from the beginning from being overwhelmed to overjoyed. As a successful realtor, Alicia's dedication goes beyond transactions, reflecting a sincere concern for her clients' well-being. Alicia is active in her community. She tends her garden, she cooks, and offers a helping hand where needed. Alicia's grandchildren fondly dub her the best grandma in the whole wide world, a title she cherishes for sure. Her life's goal is clear: to leave the world and those she touches better than she found them, a mission she pursues with love and commitment every day. So thank you so much, Alicia, and welcome to this episode.
Thank you. You're making me cry.
Oh, yes. So tell me, so I know grandkids, a big thing. Well, I guess what got you so emotional?
Oh, just my grandkids. Cut this part out. I don't want this on here, but we all love our kids and we love our grandkids. So it's just hearing it,
Okay. Yeah. But I think this is authentic, and I think people can truly appreciate the vulnerability and the emotions that come with being a grandma and being a mom, because all of that is very hard. I could get emotional just thinking about it because it is hard. It is tough, and you love your kids so much and you love your grandkids so much, and you try to do the best that you can as a grandma and as a mom. And sometimes we feel like we fail on a regular basis, myself included, on a very recent basis. So you're going to get me emotional now. But I think, though, that it's a good thing, because I think people need to know and understand that this is reality. This is life. And it's not always rainbows and unicorns. It's not. So tell me a little bit about your journey with real estate. What got you into it? And then kind of throughout that story.
Okay, well, as an entrepreneur, I've done several different things in my life, and sometimes they overlapped, and I had told you about some of those. But in 1981, I had my first child, and she was perfect. And of course, I wanted to be home with her as much as I could. So I thought, real estate would be great because I can be at home with her during the day. When my husband gets home at night, I can take off and do real estate, because that's when you do most of your business, is evenings and weekends. So I did that until my youngest was about 7 or 8. And then I worked for a Gallup organization, and it was an executive interviewer where you call and talk to people all across the world. And that was very interesting, and I loved that job. But I quit that to go back home and homeschool my kids. And when I was homeschooling my kids, I still needed to generate some income. So, those of us women who have that entrepreneur spirit, it follows through everything that we do. And it's kind of an underlying theme that we weave into everything. So when I was doing that, I had a multi-level marketing company that I ran. and I sold children's books. And we had one of the leading teams in the nation. And then I had a nail salon and a hair salon because before I started real estate, I went to cosmetology school. So I had my own hair and nail salon, while I was at home, in my home when I was raising the kids. I also did some companion care for seniors and did that for about 10 years. And a lot of these things overlap. And I think I did 5 or 6 of them at one time. I also had a cleaning service, a residential commercial cleaning service. And so I've done a lot of different things. But, you just do what you have to do to make ends meet sometimes and to raise your family and still have an outlet for you and to meet new people, because I think most of us have that entrepreneurial spirit. We thrive on meeting new people and new goals and new things. So that was kind of my brief summary of everything that I've done.
Yeah. And I think that's a good testament to how entrepreneurship is very volatile. There's a lot of ebbs and flows, ups and downs. And I think the misconception when people get into not just real estate, but as an entrepreneur, they're on this high on how exciting it is. They're very flexible. They set their own schedule. And then they start realizing that, holy moly, this is a lot harder than I thought. It's harder to get your stuff out there, to market yourself, to market your business, to get that business coming in. While expenses are going up, business is not the greatest. And even when you've been in business for an extended period of time, you can still have those ebbs and flows. And you will always have those ebbs and flows, but it's just learning how to make those ebbs and flows a little bit more steady versus highs and lows. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, I totally agree with that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I like how you said, and especially when your kids are little and you want to be there for them, but you still have to make ends meet. And as an entrepreneur, we can't sit still. That's the problem. We feel like we have to be doing something. And even when to somebody else, we look like we're doing really well, we're never satisfied. We're like, okay, I need more. What is it? It's not about the money. It's about what can I do internally and for others to, I guess, fulfill what I'm called for.
Yes, absolutely. You're right. Mm-hmm.
So what got you back into real estate? And do you have any regrets when you've kind of dabbled in and out?
So I've been a licensed realtor 3 different times, and each time I found it very rewarding. The second time that I got back into real estate was in about 2019 or something like that to about 2004. And I would have stayed in real estate at that time, but
you mean 1999 to 2004? Because you said 2019.
Yeah. It would have been 1999 to 2004.
Okay.
I quit at that time. I would have kept my license because I was successful and was enjoying it. But my husband and I were thinking about, 20 years down the road, we want to retire and we want to have our own business. And we always loved antiques. So we opened up an antique mall and we ran that for almost 20 years. But after it flooded 3 times, I said, that's it, we're out. I'm not going to do this anymore. So we still even actually own the building. If anybody wants a building by Nebraska City, I got one for sale, but we still own the building. So we still had mortgage, insurance, and taxes to pay on that. So I knew that I needed to figure out something to do. And, I was 60 at the time, and being a 60-year-old woman and having the experience being a CEO, running a business, doing everything I did, it was hard for me to find a job. Nobody wanted to hire me because either I was too old or I had too much experience and they didn't want to pay me. And I wasn't asking for a lot, really. But then I decided, my grandkids are now living right next door to me. And that's kind of like having your own kids. So I wanted to be available. So I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll start selling real estate. And I told my broker, I said, I only want to sell a couple of houses a year just to make these expenses. And I'm not going to get carried away. And if you call me into the office and say, Alicia, why aren't you doing more? I'm out of here because I know myself how I can get carried away. So that was my safeguard. And here I am 5 years later. I've started a real estate team that focuses on seniors. I love it. People say, when are you going to retire? And it's like, what would I do if I retired? I'd sit around and be thinking, what am I going to do next? So here I am and have my real estate license now for the 3rd time. But I do admit that it gets easier every time you take the test. I only missed 4 questions on this last one. So
nice. That's awesome. So you run a team. How many people are on your team?
So right now we have 3 people on our team. We've only been operating for, I think, maybe about a month and a half. It's the Nebraska Real Estate Specialty Group from Nebraska Realty. And we focus on niche services. Just like, when you go to the doctor's office and you go see a cardiologist or you go see an OBGYN or you go see an orthopedic doctor, real estate is the same way. And you have different areas that you love to do. And those are some of the areas where people are attracted to you as well. And so when you focus on that, the area that you love, no matter what business you're in, you are going to be happy and you're going to be more fulfilled. And you'll be waking up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning thinking, oh man, I got this great idea. I got to get up and get this started because I can't just lay here and think about it anyway. So when you do that, it just makes what you do so much more enjoyable. And you find out it's not really a job and you're serving people. And, I'm 66 years old now and I'm proud of that. We're dying at 50. So, we've got some years on me. When you get to be my age, you want to do things where it's going to make a difference and you're going to leave the world a little bit better place than you found it.
Yeah, absolutely. And they always say riches are in the niches. And I truly do believe that. And I think if you can get very clear on what it is that you're doing and who you're serving, it's a lot more fulfilling. And I'll admit that I have not figured that out for me. So did you have that niche the other 2 times, or did that take time to kind of come to you?
Well, the second time I got my real estate license, I had a different niche and I was in a different phase of my life. At that time, I was in my 40s, mid 40s. And my niche was specializing in women specializing in women with needs, specializing in the needs of women in transition. And so I had a lot of friends who had either lost their husbands by divorce or death or something like that. So we had some single moms. My mom was a single mom, so my heart went out to them. Just women who are struggling and they needed help in their real estate transactions. They needed someone to come alongside them and say, I'm going to take care of you through this. We're going to get your house sold. We're going to find you a place that you'll just love. So sometimes during that time, there's a lot of trauma. They've been through some really rough times and they're not really thinking clearly. And so they needed somebody to come along like a sister and help them through some of those transactions. So,
yeah. I would say, like, for me, my heart goes out to families with kids, especially young kids, because that's just a phase in my life that I'm at right now. It's not my specialty. I don't focus on that niche, but that is really what drives me a lot is when I am working with families with young kids. I was going to say something. So I actually help run and operate. It's called Marigold Lane, and it's for women with children. So women who are single with children for transitional housing. We just started that. It's been going on like 3 years. It's been a long process, but we finally officially helped our very first family transition. So we found the rental, we found all the supplies for furnishing the property, and then we gave the woman, so we kind of helped pay for the first few months, and then we strategically, percentage wise, have them start paying it. And then ultimately by month 6 or 7, they either take over the lease or they find their new apartment. And this last time, she just ended up taking over the lease and got back on her feet. She had 2 jobs. She had a case manager to be able to help her with everything else in her life. But that was a very interesting process. I would say the hardest thing about that, though, aside from finding rentals, because that's a whole other thing, but emotionally is when we had to choose which family to walk with, because we only had one apartment. Right now, we have nothing because we don't own it. We're looking for landlords to work with. But eventually we hope to be able to own some properties and be able to have many. But the hardest part was choosing what family to actually help, because I'm the president and I was like, I don't know, you guys choose. Like, I don't want to make that decision. It was so hard. I wanted to cry.
Help along. Yeah.
I wanted to cry because all we got was a piece of paper as like an application on who we're going to help. So we're going based off of their and it was so hard. I think we made the right decision, and I'm hoping and praying that we did, because we were able to help this woman and she was able to get back on her feet. Because like you said, when you're going through these hard times, whether you lost your husband, divorce, domestic abuse, whatever the case is, if you're looking for a place to live, you're not going to be able to sustain housing. You're not going to be able to sustain a job and providing for your kids and making sure that they're going to school and getting good grades. Like, you're not able to do all of those things if you're constantly looking for a roof over your head. So I just thought that was interesting. That was your niche the second time, because it does really pull in my heart a lot, because like I said, motherhood is tough. And when you're doing it alone, I don't know how those women do it. Props to them. Seriously, amazing.
Well, good for you for helping them find a soft place to fall. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we're hoping that grows and continues to grow and get bigger and stuff, but we'll see. I mean, you can just only take it one step at a time, and it's been a longer process than we thought, but yeah. So can you kind of dive into the nitty gritty about like when you were raising kids, for people who have kids or grandkids, how are you able to balance the life of entrepreneurship and then motherhood?
And I think you touched a little bit on the fact that we always compare ourselves to somebody else. And I know when my kids were little and I had 3 little kids, I remember going to the office one day and I had my 3 little kids in tow. And I think I was babysitting my niece and nephew, and they were with me too. And I was there to do something. And I remember a woman who had 8 children, and she looked at me and she just smiled and she said, "Alicia, these are the best years of your life." And I'm like, "What? You got to be kidding. I'm a wreck. I'm a mess. I'm just flying by the seat of my pants." But she obviously knew what I was going through, having 8 of her own. And so now looking back at that, I thought, I think there was something to that. What you wouldn't give to have those little babies on your lap again. So, just remember that, moms, you're out there and you're with your kids every day. And these are the days that you're going to remember.
You're going to make me cry. Because, no, don't apologize. Because it is emotional. And the reason I think I get so emotional is because we get so caught up in our business world.
Yeah.
We're doing these things for our kids, right? But then we also lose sight of, so my mom actually sent me a video yesterday, and it was talking about cell phones. So we don't give our kids technology. They'll have TV once in a while. They do have a Nintendo Switch that they get very rarely. We don't bring it anywhere. They don't get it in the vehicle unless we're going on like an 8-hour drive. So our kids have been very limited to social or to technology. But the fact that I still walk around my house and when I'm with my kids with my cell phone in my hand, tell them they are not the most important thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like if I was sitting here and I'm constantly looking at my phone while we're doing this interview, you're going to think I'm not taking this interview very seriously, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And we need to realize that's the same thing with our kids. Like when we're sitting there on our phone, or even if we're sitting at the dinner table and our phone is face down and turned on vibrate, but the fact that it's still there and that we feel like we need to have it with us, tell them they are not the most important thing to us.
Yeah.
And it does pull on you a lot. So it's not always about the quality or the quantity of time that we spend with our kids, because I need that separation. Believe me, I need that separation for my kids. I love them dearly, but I need my time because I need to focus on me too. But it's more about the quality. And that's the biggest thing that I'm working on. And so this morning I was literally watching that video while I was getting ready, and my daughter came in, and I thought to myself, holy moly, here she is trying to talk to me. And I'm sitting here on my phone watching this video on how you shouldn't be on your phone in front of your kid.
Yeah.
But even if you have to take it from room to room, like that's a problem. And it is it's an addiction. I think we all can agree that we have an addiction to our phones. And if we don't have something going on, that we have to get on social media, that we have to get on Facebook, we have to do these things, we have to stay busy. But
and those little, and one thing I'll add to that is those little eyes are watching you, and they are learning everything that you do, and they are going to mirror exactly what you do. And if you want them to be a good listener and a good person and a good parent when they grow up, you got to teach them that I can put my phone down. I can look at you in the eye and I can hold your little face and say, what can I do for you today? And give them your undivided attention. Just 1 minute. 1 minute a day will make the difference in their world.
Yeah. And especially at night, what I had started doing is we don't take our phones to bed with us. We always read to our kids. They would get 1 or 2 books, but then just lay with each of them individually, even for 10 minutes each, and say, so how was your day? What was something kind that you did for somebody else? What is something that was challenging for you today? Because if you just ask, I think we all get into, how was your day? Good. Like it becomes a routine conversation and doesn't really get into it. So if you lay there and you ask these specific questions, it really gets their brain going. Now, my son, I swear, I don't know if it's a man thing, a boy thing, or what, but I don't know. How was your day? I don't know. Who'd you play with? I don't know. What'd you do today? I did not know what you're doing, what you did today. It was kind of cute. But that's one thing that we really focus on. And then we also do like one-on-one dates, even if it's just for 1 hour, one time a week, or even if it's one time a month, because we have to alternate with our kids. But that 1 hour to an hour and a half, undivided attention for them. Now, I still need to get better of leaving my phone in the vehicle so they know that they are the most important thing right then and there.
And that's really important. It sounds like you're doing a great job, Shay. And thank you for doing that for your kids, because those are going to be the things that they are going to remember. They're not going to remember what kind of car you drive or what kind of house you live on. They might remember the house, but they aren't going to remember all these material things. But they're going to remember those special times with their mom.
Yeah. So. Absolutely. And what about your grandkids? How do you incorporate, because you were saying that you brought the kids to the office with you. So I'm just going to kind of jump back to that a little bit. I had to do that a lot. And I've also had to do it. So I'm part of the chamber here in Columbus. And I started doing that when my youngest was a newborn. So we'd go to appointments at the chamber or meetings. And I'd have to tell them like, hey, either I'm coming with my baby or I won't be there at all. And they've been very open to it. And I just had somebody compliment me the other day. She said, Shay, honestly, I wish, because we had another meeting and I had to bring all 3 of my kids. But my kids are so good, honestly, at meetings like that. Again, we don't bring phones. I don't bring technology. I bring colors. They got to figure it out, but they do so good. And I had a mom compliment me the other day. She said, honestly, Shay, I wish I would have done that. She said, you have no idea how many opportunities I missed out on or meetings I didn't go to because I was almost embarrassed to have to bring my kids. So I just chose not to go, where that wasn't even a thought for me. I'm like, either you want me there or not, but I'm bringing my kids. And they learn to communicate with adults and respect their time. And
they do.
Yeah.
And I think things have changed a lot for women in business over the last 40 years. 40 years ago, when I would take my kids to work, it would have to be not very often. And I couldn't even keep them there with me for very long. That was kind of looked down upon. Like if you couldn't be a professional and leave your kids at home and find a babysitter, then maybe you shouldn't be here. And now it's more, hey, she's doing it right. Her kids are number one. So what if she has to bring them here to the office? And so we've made a lot of strides in making sure that people know that our family is important and our family is number one. And we don't have to apologize for being a mom and a businesswoman both.
That's right. That's right. Not to apologize at all because, I've never thought of people, because I had somebody else tell me that the reason that they don't is because they don't think that it's very professional. I don't know what to tell you. I guess that's your prerogative, but this is what I got to do. And I am committed to my business, but I'm also committed to my family.
Yeah. And, I think in the 80s and 90s when I was doing real estate, I never took my kids with me on a showing or anything like that. And now I'll just pick a grandkid and say, come on, let's go with me. And it's a fun little one-on-one time that we get to have with them. So sometimes you just have to look for these opportunities when they come along, and it doesn't have to be a big deal. You can stop and get an ice cream cone on the way back. It doesn't have to be a big production. They just want your time.
Yeah.
So just remember that your kids are still there and they're still watching you, and to make those times special with them. And I have the wonderful opportunity to have my children live. 3 of my grandkids live right across the street from me. And my son is a single dad 24/7. And when I say single dad, I mean, he's everything. He's mom and everything. They don't see much of her. So I try to fill in that gap of being a woman in their life and someone that they can look up to and just love them.
And rely on. Yeah. It broke up. But they need that mom figure in their life, somebody that they can rely on,
Yeah. So sometimes we learn how to cook. Sometimes we learn how to do embroidery, and we do art crafts. And we teaching them to play pitch because that's one of my favorite games. So I want them to be good pitch players when they grow up. So that's a must at my house. And we just have fun. And I remember back in the days of real estate, comparing myself to somebody that was retired. Well, she's older, to me, I thought 50 was, really old back then when you're in your 20s. But I remember thinking, oh man, she's got a car. She has a driver. They're driving her around to listing appointments. Every time she comes in for sales meetings, she's got 4 or 5 listings. And I'm, racking my brain here just trying to get one. I can't wait to get to that point when I don't have to worry about the dishes and the laundry and the kids and where they're going to be, so that I can just focus on real estate. But I'll tell you what, when you get there, you just have other things that are distracting you, like friends that aren't feeling well, or your husband, or your grandkids. There's always going to be something in life that's going to try to pull you away from doing what you do. So you just have to set some boundaries, I think, with your business, and you have to set aside some time. But you can't. Your business can't be number 10, but it doesn't have to be number 1. And one thing that I learned through the years of having my own business was, if it's a business, I need to run it as a business, at least part of the time. Okay. And so one question that I would always ask myself is, since this is my business, if I was hiring somebody, would I hire myself? And now that I've hired myself and I see what kind of job I'm doing, am I going to keep them on the payroll? Are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? So set some time aside every day to work your business. And I know as moms, sometimes that's going to come in 10-minute increments, because sometimes it'll be an hour increment. Sometimes it's where they're taking their nap. When they're taking their nap. Sometimes it's going to be when they're in school. But take advantage of those times where you can really focus and laser focus on your business at that time. And it'll make it all so much better.
And by focus, that means like turning off all distractions, turning off your notifications on your computer, turning off your notifications on your phone, actually putting your phone in another area, because even if your notification's on, how many times do we touch our phone? Just to look.
Yeah. Every time you do that, you're distracted. And then you have to start whatever you were doing all over again, don't you?
Yep. They say you look away, even for a split second, to read something else, to come back to where you were. It takes about 12 minutes to get back to where you were. So think about that. Like, that is a huge amount of waste of time. So that's why getting disciplined and knowing exactly what you're going to do. Now, it doesn't always align like that, but if the more disciplined you become and be structured with your time, the more you can get done. Because Elon Musk has just as much time as I do in a day, but I can guarantee you he gets a lot more done. I know he's got employees, but that's why he leverage. But starting out, I bet he got a lot more done than I do in life. And we all have the same time.
Yeah, but you're not going to hit a home run every day, but sometimes you can make it to first or second base, and that's all you need to do that day.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to roll to get to
it. You do. That's for sure.
You just got to keep going. And I swear, when the weather's gloomy, I'm just like, what do we need to do? Let's get this. And like I said, you go through the ebbs and flows, but if you just keep going one step at a time, you'll get there. It's not a marathon. It's not a race. It's a marathon, but it's also not about the destination. It's about the journey. So
yes. And make your goals your goals. Don't look at somebody else and say, that's what I should be doing. And write down some goals. Maybe write down some daily goals, weekly goals, monthly goals, 5-year goals, where you want to be. You start looking back at these and you're going to see all these goals that you're making. And these are goals that you set for yourself. So those are the most important goals and the best way to measure how you're doing. And when you look back and you see all the success you have, with the success that in the goals that you have for you in the future, you're going to hit those too.
And not just professional goals, but like your spiritual goals, your physical goals, your mental goals, your relationship goals. All of those goals, because success is not defined by the monetary things and materialistic things that you have. It really, because there's a lot of people in this world who have a lot of money, who are multimillionaires, multi-billionaires, but they're miserable. Where you have other people who are extremely happy, like Cloud9, but they don't really have a lot. And you're like, I want to be more like those people. Just appreciate the things that you have. And I struggle with that. Like, I appreciate the things that I have, but I'm like never satisfied. That was a conversation I had with my coach not too long ago. Like, I'm happy. I love my life. I love my kids. I love my family. I love where I live. I don't have all of these big, huge things. I love everything, but I'm never satisfied in my business. It's so weird. Like, you always set those goals, but then like when you get close to them or when you reach them, you're like, all right, could I do that? Like, keep going. But I think that's
okay, because life is just, like you said, life is a journey and you're constantly evolving and you're constantly growing. And without those goals, you just become stagnant. And then that's when you get bored and you try something else because you think, I've reached my goals. There's nothing to do now. So what, So just keep making those goals and just keep plugging forward, because I don't know I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up.
I say that all the time. Oh, I say that all the time. And to think that 18-year-olds need to make that decision at that time is just crazy. But yeah, I mean, it's a constant process, a constant journey. But okay, so after everything that we talked about, what is one piece of advice that you would either give your younger version self or maybe somebody who's newly getting into the entrepreneurship world and mom?
Well, yeah, and I thought about this, and it's just like, don't be so hard on yourself. As women, we are so hard on ourselves. We do all of these things for everybody else. We make all these concessions for everybody else, and we're constantly nitpicking and judging ourselves on a daily basis. And stop all that negative chatter that's going on in your head, because you are a good person, you are a valuable person, and you are enough, no matter what you're doing. Don't listen to all those lies and yourself trying to tell you, oh, you should be more, because you got it. You're okay right where you're at. Just keep moving forward.
John Gordon, and it's kind of what you were just talking about. So I assumed that you had read it. So that's why, but he talks about we need to realize that the negative thoughts that are coming into our mind are not our thoughts, but it's up to us to decide how we react to them, because what you focus on grows. So if you're focusing on those negative thoughts and you start believing those lies, then that's what's going to become true. So if you keep telling yourself, oh, I'm overweight, I'm not eating healthy, I'm not exercising, I can't exercise, I'm too tired, well, that's going to become your reality. Yeah. That is going to become your reality. And he talks about how we need to realize that those negative thoughts that come into our head are not our thoughts, because nobody would intentionally want to think those negative thoughts. So it's called The One Truth by John Gordon. I'm about halfway through it. It's an amazing book. I definitely recommend reading it or listening to it, whatever you do. But I figured you did because of what you were saying.
Oh, yeah. The way to stop some of those negative self thoughts that we have is to start thinking about everything that you're grateful for. You know, and if you can just think of 5 things, everybody has 5 things we're grateful for. We live in America. Look, we have running water. We have a roof over our head. We have too much food to eat. We all have cars that get us around. We have family members that are close. These are things that people dream of. You live, no matter where you live, there is somebody in the world, probably 90, you live better % of the rest of the world. Did you know that? If you live in America. So be grateful for what you do have, because there's somebody out there that would love to be in your position.
Yeah. Yep. Because love and fear. So like you said, be grateful. Love and fear cannot live at the same time.
Right.
So you find Vic Keller, he said a quote one time he told me, he said, I view everyone through a lens of love. And I was like, and I had heard him say that before last year when I went to a conference, but when I was talking to him this last year, he said it again and it clicked. And if you view everyone and everything through a lens of love, fear cannot live in your reality.
Right. And I have 3 granddaughters that live in Lexington, North Carolina. And I was so bummed that when they moved, because it's like, oh, I'm not going to be able to see them anymore. But I've got to be grateful that we have Skype. We have all these different things with technology. We can touch bases with them better. Our travel opportunities. 40 years ago, you couldn't just drive out there. It would have been a lot more complicated. So there's a lot of different things that I can be grateful for, even though I hate that my daughter moved and took those babies with her, but we just have to make the best of it. And they're still living in the United States. It's not like I have to have a passport to go visit them. So there's always something to be grateful for.
Always. All right. Well, thank you so much, Alicia, for taking the time out of your day and talking to us about your careers and everything that you've gone through and providing your knowledge. So I truly appreciate your time and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me on your podcast and giving me the opportunity to do this. And with my Nebraska Savvy Seniors, we also have a podcast, and it's called Senior Stories. And that is one that my son TJ runs. And we're always looking for people who have a great senior story. And everybody has us. And we would love to hear your stories too.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to be on your podcast, how can they get a hold of you?
So just contact me at nesavvyseniors.com or Alicia at Nebraska Realty, or Google me. You'll see me online, and I'm everywhere on the internet, I think. But call Nebraska Realty if you can't get a hold of me or TJ.
Okay. Thank you so much, Alicia.
Thank you.
And that wraps up another inspiring episode of the Real Moms Podcast. A huge thank you to our incredible guests for sharing their story and insights today. If you found value in today's conversation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And hey, sharing is caring, right? Share this podcast with your fellow mompreneurs, friends, and anyone who you feel could use a dose of inspiration. Share it on your social media as well. But most importantly, if you found this episode helpful, please leave me a 5-star review. This helps get our information out to those who have never heard or seen us before. Are you feeling inspired and you're sure that you could add some value to the podcast? Shoot me a message and let's talk. We love hearing from you. So connect with us on social media. Tag me at Shay J Spitz. That's ShaeJSpitz. And share your thoughts and takeaways, or even suggest topics you'd like to have us explore more in the future episodes. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. Your resilience is your strength, and your pursuit of abundant living is truly remarkable. As always, keep thriving, keep growing, and keep embracing the beautiful chaos of being a mompreneur. Until next time, take care, stay real, and keep living abundantly.